Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Koskinen, since you are the Commissioner of the IRS, I have some tax questions for you. Since 1976, Commissioner, every Democratic and Republican candidate for president, every one, has released his personal tax returns. Releasing tax returns provides voters with important background information on the candidate's contributions to his community, how he may operate his business. And I just would like to confirm a few things that we might know if we had access to the candidate's tax returns. Releasing a tax return can demonstrate how much a person pays in taxes. Is that correct?
You would know any time anybody filed what they paid in taxes, yes.
And would it also tell us how much a person gives to charity?
To the extent they took the charitable deduction, it would. For various reasons, sometimes people don't.
Would it give us some indication into a person's assets or investments?
Harder, all you report is income and expenses, so it would not necessarily tell you a lot about assets other than that they produced a lot of income. If
they produced a lot of income, we can draw some conclusions about the amount of the assets.
Right, but there would be no way to actually know what the assets are.
And would it confirm how the person has chosen to try to reduce his tax liability?
Yeah, you would be able to see in any taxpayer return what the deductions were, what benefits they took advantage of.
Right. If we had the tax return, would it provide information on how a person receives his income? Right.
You would see the source of income, yes.
Right. And we may, if we had the access to the tax returns, have some indication how the person finances his real estate transactions.
You would have some. You wouldn't have a full picture, again, because you wouldn't have a picture of all the assets.
We'd have some. Right, we'd have some, as opposed to none. Is it correct that a lot of this information we would be able to glean right from the first couple of pages of a person's 1040 and Schedule A?
You would have some, but it would be a very high level of abstraction because there would not be any of the exhibits.
Right. But let me go on. As you're aware, the current Republican nominee for president, Donald Trump, has repeatedly said that he's unable to release his tax returns because he's under audit by the IRS. He said, when the audit is complete, I will release my returns. I don't have a problem with it. It doesn't matter. So I just have a few questions about that. Under current law, the IRS is prohibited from disclosing a person's tax returns, right?
Correct.
But current law doesn't prevent a person from releasing his own tax returns.
That's correct.
And how long can an audit go on?
Audits can go on, depending on the complexity, for years.
And a person's not prohibited from releasing their tax returns while they're under audit, are they?
No, they may be advised not to, but they're not prohibited.
Advised by the IRS not to?
They may be advised by their advisors, but not by the IRS.
Okay. And in fact, Richard Nixon released his tax returns while he was being audited by the IRS. Is there anything in the law that prohibits a person from releasing his tax returns during an audit?
No.
Does the IRS, let me ask another question. Would releasing the person's tax return during the audit in any way impact that pending audit of the return?
The release itself wouldn't. The concern sometimes by taxpayers is that when the information is public, there may be more information that will be discovered or provided.
That is
the release itself.
I understand. Right, we understand that's the concern. Does the IRS send a letter to a person informing him that he's being audited by the IRS?
Yes. In other words, in fact, as I tell people with the phone scams, if you're surprised to be hearing from us, you're not hearing from us. We send you a letter if we're going to start.
Commissioner Koskinen, is any law or regulation that prevents a person from publicly disclosing the letter from the IRS that tells them that they are being audited?
There's no restriction by the IRS.
Releasing tax returns, as we've just been discussing, provides transparency. It's being reported also on the front page of today's Washington Post that the Trump Foundation spent more than $250,000 to settle lawsuits that were filed against his business. Just a few remaining questions there. Is it illegal for the head of a nonprofit to use money from the charity to benefit himself or his business?
As a general matter, nonprofits are not allowed to. It's called inurement. Use benefits of the tax-exempt organization for their own purposes.
Is it also illegal for a nonprofit group to make political gifts, such as the Trump Foundation's $25,000 contribution to the Florida Attorney General's reelection campaign?
I can't talk about any individual taxpayer's activities. The law is clear. 501c3 organizations cannot be involved in politics.
Right.
But I, again, would stress we never talk about any individual's tax returns or their policies.
Right. Commissioner Koskinen, we shouldn't have to ask you to talk about Donald Trump's tax returns. We should be free to talk about those tax returns because, as you've told us, there is simply no reason that he has not shared them with us. He's not been prohibited from sharing them with us. And, in fact, there's no rule that says that he can't at least provide the audit notice so that we can have some small piece of information that might help us. You're right. We can't learn everything there is to learn about his finances from his tax return, but it sure would be an important start for the American people, and I appreciate your being here to help clear some of that up, and I yield back the balance of my time.